I'm doing the buyer's kit in two segments because I wanted to take time on the actual as-is contract for sale and purchase and the regular for sale and purchase. So we'll do the remaining documents in the second part, which is this part. So again, if you want to know what's in the buyer's kit, you just go to eBroker House, go to Documents, go to Buyer's Kit, and you'll see your documents here. The buyer's transaction agreement. This is something just to protect your interests in showing properties. So if you have a situation where you're investing a lot of time with a buyer, or there's some things that make you feel a little uneasy just by verbal agreement, you can present a buyer's exclusive buyer brokerage agreement to the buyer stating that they agree to work with you exclusively for a certain period of time, et cetera, et cetera, as you look for properties for them. And with simplicity, I would prefer that we do this on a case-by-case basis, so you would need to come to me and we would talk about it, because these can be a little tricky and you just want to firmly understand the relationship you have with the buyer and what the unique circumstances of each situation is, and determine whether this is the appropriate document to use for that particular situation, or if there's parts of this document that would be beneficial to both parties to use as to others. But come to me on that, and we'll determine what's in the best interest for you and your buyer with this document. But it can be a very powerful document for protecting your interests and your buyers as well. Okay. Energy efficiency brochure. This is the brochure you need to provide all your buyers. Okay, so as soon as you're preparing to make an offer on a property, you want to give this to your buyers, and you want them to initial either at the top or the bottom of each page that they received this from you. Okay, this is a government requirement, and it's one of those things. It's not a big deal when you give it to your buyer, but it can be a big deal if you don't. So you'll want to print this out and always submit it. You only need to do it once. You just need to keep the document on file and that they've initialed it. Okay? If you want to read it, again, I strongly encourage you to read all documents. It simply makes more sense to me if you read the documents that you're having people sign or initial, and that you need to explain. And find a quick way to summarize the documents as well. For your protection, get a home inspection. You'll need this as well. This is absolutely critical before you do any type of offers, or when you're submitting the offers. You have your buyer sign this. Name the address. Put the property address in the buyer. This is for each property. Okay, this is stating that you required them, or you encouraged them to get the proper home inspections, and they need to sign this. This is for each property that they do. Okay. Make sure that they sign these. If you need help going over them, we will. This right now, all I'm stating is that these are required. Typically, you only need to have the first page signed with the name of the buyer and the property address. Okay, but this is a mandatory item that you need to have signed. Again, if you find that the property is built in 1978 or older, you will need to provide what we so jokingly call the Don't Eat the Paint brochure, but the lead-based paint. Pretty much assure you that if the property is built in 1978 or prior, that at some point there was lead-based paint used on the property. But this is the document that you need to provide your buyers. You only need to provide this once, but you need to provide your buyers at the beginning when dealing with properties 1978 or older. You can provide it to them if it's a younger property as well, which I encourage you to do too. There's no reason why you couldn't. The short sale addendum. Again, this is if it's a short sale situation. If it is a short sale situation, I encourage you to come talk to me about it too before we make the offer, so we understand what's all involved with the short sale. There are specific questions that I would like you to ask the listing agent before even getting involved in a short sale. Luckily for us, short sales are starting to go the way of the dinosaur, and hopefully will continue to do so in the immediate future. But again, you would fill this out, and this is essentially stating that everyone understands that this is a short sale. Anytime you see parentheses, it requires initials, so your buyers can either initial here, and the sellers will initial the opposite ones. This contract is contingent upon the seller obtaining short sale approval. Okay. This is a short sale out that most people don't realize when they sign the original contract, but the seller must deliver a copy of the short sale approval to the buyer within 7 days after receipt, but no later than 45 days if left blank. Okay, so your addendums, what you need to know, an addendum to a contract supersedes the actual contract. So if the contract, you say in a short sale that you're willing to wait 90 days, but then you have the short sale addendum that says you're only willing to wait 45 days from the effective date, the 45 days overrides the 90 days. Okay? So addendums always override the original contract when they're agreed upon as essentially addendums. The lender makes an offer to the seller. Seller does not include items, contains additional items, blah, blah, blah. It's not required to accept the offer. This is just a definition of what the short sale is. Short sale application, buyer cooperation. This is just saying that the seller is going to cooperate with the short sale process, okay, and that they understand that they're cooperating and they're telling you that they're cooperating. Time periods set forth in the contract. This is defining what the time periods are. Okay, it can either be from the initial deposit, any inspection provided for in this contract that the buyer deems necessary, or other. Please specify. So all time periods set forth in this contract will begin the day after the seller delivers short sale approval to the buyer, except time periods for approval deadline, short sale application, contract termination date, and the following items if checked. Okay, so other than these items mentioned here, all other executable dates will begin when the seller receives an approval from their lender to proceed with the sale of the home. Okay, so if you go under contract and the seller executes the contract and your home inspection time frame is 5 days, it's not 5 days from the time that the seller signs the contract, it's 5 days from the time the seller's lender approves the contract that the seller agreed to. Offers, backup offers. If required by lender, seller may receive additional offers. I would put seller may not enter into backup offers. That just makes things more confusing. Closing date, seller and buyer agree to extend the closing date in this contract. You can put X amount of days here. If blank, it's 15. If the lender requires additional time to complete the short sale. If seller does not deliver a copy of short sale approval deadline, either party may thereafter terminate the contract by delivering written notice to the other, and buyer's deposits will be refunded. If seller has not delivered a copy of the short sale approval to the buyer within, again, 90 days here, if left blank, after effective date, or if lender fails to complete the short sale or the property is sold at foreclosure, this contract will terminate. So this is just giving other outs for the buyer if these items don't happen. Buyer's acknowledgement. Buyer acknowledges that the lender is not a party to the contract and is not obligated to approve the contract. The lender meaning the seller's lender. Buyer is responsible for understanding lender's policies and procedures. Lender may impose restrictions on buyer's ability to resell the property, and seller and broker are not liable for delays caused by the lender. And the lender here is always the seller's lender, not the buyer's lender if it's finance. Seller's acknowledgement. This is just stating what the seller acknowledges in terms of the short sale as well. And that addendum will be attached to any purchase contract for sale and purchase for a short sale property. Those are the basic addendums for a buyer's kit. Again, when you're getting ready to submit your first offer or your first couple offers, I'll want to sit with you and go over the particulars of the offer and what you're going to do and why you're going to do it, just so we have an understanding and we have a complete package that we can submit to a listing agent to give you the best opportunity to for you and the buyer to win that bid. Thanks so much. Again, as always, if you have questions, just contact me directly, but I hope this was helpful.